नमस्कार मित्रांनो, आपण आलो आहोत आज गोव्यामध्ये आणि आज गोव्यामध्ये आपण म्युझियम जे आहे, आर्ट म्युझियम आहे गोव्याचं, ते आपण आज बघण्यासाठी आलो आहे. सध्या आम्ही चेक इन केलं रूममध्ये आणि आम्ही आता म्युझियम बघायला आलो आहे. इकडे बघू शकता बाहेर थोडेसे स्टॅच्यू लावले आणि चला तर मग बघूया कसं आज हे म्युझियम आहे आणि सगळ्या गोष्टी. आमचे नवीन ब्लॉगर इथे दिसतात. जागाच नाही
of success, why do you come down? It was all right until I did my watercolors. Then I started planting shells. So for most people, the idea of planting shells as a profession was the most weird thing to do for an adult. I learned my basic painting skills from my father. Initially I did the traditional watercolors. And for the last 20 years I have been experimenting with different mediums, different kinds of work. And then I traveled around the world. And I would say that I learned my work from museums of modern art. Initially when I went to Tate Modern, for example, I did not understand most of the works because I was not trained to understand them. And then I thought either I am a fool or they are taking me for a ride. I decided maybe I am a fool, let me learn. And that started the process. And after some time, I mean, it was wonderful. A kind of Pandora's box was opened to me by the museums, by the art fairs, by the biennales, and here am I, basically doing a lot of conceptual work now. Turning a walk into a sculpture, which Richard Long floated. I was really fascinated by that idea, the concept of making a walk into a sculpture. And I had done some lamps. So I took one of my lamps, a copper lamp, went to the beach, dug a crater, placed my disc on the top of the crater with the electrical bulb underneath it, and electrical wire running under the sand, took the electrical connection from a beach shack, and when I put the light on, I was stunned. It was not intentional what I did. It was almost accidental. And my first piece of land art is called a 10th planet because I felt like God. I felt I have created a planet. Most of my work, which I do on the beach, is very temporary, which is ephemeral. It reminds me of a lovely poem by Tagore, who is my favorite poet. It says, the waves write their poetry on the sand, and not satisfied, wipe them off over and over again. So my works are kind of my poetry on the sand. and the waves wipe them off too. There will be some works which I do with shells which will just last until the high tide comes. That's again a few hours. Well, I consider myself an ocean artist, a sea artist, because as a child, I used to go for a walk from the age of 6 to 16 with my father every day for 2 hours. We have hardly missed a day. And those walks were actually very important to me. That not only sort of created a great relationship between me and my father, but also gave my father instilled a lot of dreams into me. We would sit down and watch the waves break, the surf run onto the sand, and wet sand. But most of the waves broke and wet the same sand which was wet before. And then a bigger wave would come, hurry ahead, and wet new sand. And my father told me, son, anything what you do, it is most important to wet new sand. I do not know whether in my artistic endeavors I have wet new sand, but if I have not, I will try my best to. And this kind of walks sort of created a great relationship between me and the sea. The sea became a friend, a master and a muse and an inspiration. And so a lot of my work is now connected with the ocean. When I plant shells, it is not just because they're beautiful, it looks interesting. When I do that, there's a wonderful kind of a symbiotic relationship. Inspiration, medium, and the canvas. The sea is my canvas, the shells are given to me by the sea, the sea is the inspiration, and she is also the theme. I have worked with sand and light. Every child, when a child is asked to do a sunset picture, they just a sun and a triangle of lines. So I decided to create my triangle of lines with just some kind of burrows and light behind. See, I'm always open to all kind of materials. And with this new material, the old truck tires, which I very often use now, which I got acquainted with in Jaipur. In Jaipur, I saw a shop selling products made out of old truck tires. When I bought this material, I didn't know what I will do with it. And I thought that on the roads of Rajasthan, the soles of the camel fit get worn out, and so do the tires of the trucks. So I decided to make a camel foot with old truck tires. The ideas are important to me, and then new materials fascinate me. So one day I was doing an interview with a cane maker, and I found this story very interesting and the way he was working. So I decided, okay, I made a drawing and said, can you do that? And he did it for me. And then we just used them as lamps in a festival. So I've always been fascinated with boats, the wooden boats, especially the way the two pieces of wood are joined to create the boats. For me, that's wonderful. And I have been, as a child, clicking pictures of the surfaces of boats, because the surfaces are so rich. Because for 50, 60 years, the waves have played upon this body of the boat, creating all these surfaces. And I loved them. And then, slowly, the fishermen are now using fiberglass boats because they're cheaper, they're lighter, they consume less petrol, and so they sell the old boats. They don't know what to do with them. So one day I bought old boats, and I started working with this, and it was a wonderful experience because here I was working with a boat which was already in use for 60, 70 years. So the whole story of the boat is incorporated in my sculpture, which I make out of this boat. So it's like using history as a medium for sculpture itself. The songs of the fishermen, the lines, the grooves made by the rope which pulled the nets into the boat, the waves playing and making those textures, all that becomes part of my sculpture. When I was asked to do this installation, one of the biggest problems was this big hotel, Burj Arab. Now Burj Arab was so dominating, to do something next to it which will stand was a big challenge. But interestingly, what happened was because of the shape of the boats and I put them vertical, it just goes very well. I realized that the oceans, which separate the continents, were also responsible for uniting the continents. I was a doctor practicing on the seaside. I had a hospital where I said babies were born to the music of the waves because it was that near. All the fishermen were my patients. And I realized that their life is so much intertwined with the ocean. It's almost inseparable. And that idea of inseparability fascinated me. Because if you have studied the life of the fishermen, they don't sleep at home. They sleep on the beach under the open sky. They get up in the middle of the night, push the boat, go into the ocean, come back early morning, the wives are waiting with the breakfast, and they carry the fish they have brought to the markets. And then the whole life is totally connected. And what I realized is, in spite of the tourism, the life of a lot of fishermen remains unaffected. So I decided that I will do something expressing this idea of inseparability. So the fishermen become the boat, the fishermen become the fish. The whole history of human civilization is dissolved in the ocean. And through my work, I try to precipitate that history. Indigo is another very important commodity on the ships which sail from India. Indigo is a color which is supposed to have seduced the world and has been used for times immemorial. And initially, indigo came from a plant. When Gandhi arrived in India, he had come with his paraphernalia of new experiments with his satyagraha. And the first satyagraha in India was actually to help the indigo workers. There were some very interesting dramas written in Bengal. One is called Neeladarpan, which is about the indigo. And so indigo really fascinated me, and I loved the color. And then I found this very wonderful way of doing it, that I started covering rocks with indigo. Initially, when I started covering the rocks, I didn't know how to do it, because first I went with 100 toilet papers and some glue, thinking that I will cover the rock with toilet paper and then apply indigo to it. And then I also carried a sieve, and it was very windy. And I just put a little bit indigo in the sieve and just tapped it, and the wind did the job. What I had thought would take 10 hours was done within 10 minutes by the wind. And just within half a kilo of indigo, I could cover a huge rock.
पेंटिंग ये क्या है? बेटा है
इकडे बघू शकता तुम्ही काय तार आहेत आपल्या रेग्युलर तारा, त्याला त्याच्यापासून काहीतरी वेगळं त्याला कलर्स देऊन असे आर्ट्स बनवू शकतो. कॉटनची जी हे असतं ते स्टॅच्यू बनवलेले म्हणजे कापसाची रुई क्वीन इकडे बघू शकता.
पूर्ण एक
तेच मी करत होतो. इकडे तुम्ही बघू शकता मिरच्यांमध्ये वेगवेगळ्या प्रकारचा आर्ट केलेलं आहे की ज्या ह्या मिरच्या ॲक्च्युअलमध्ये मिरची बघायला गेली तर हे इंडियामध्ये कधी प्रोड्यूस झालेलीच नाही आहे. बाहेरचं बिये जे इकडं आणून प्रोड्यूस केले नंतर ह्याला वेगवेगळ्या प्रकारचे कपडे म्हणजे असं कपडे लावले आहेत वेगवेगळ्या प्रकारचे राजस्थानी कपडे असं त्यांनी डॉक्युमेंटरीमध्ये मगाशी सांगितलं होतं. आणि काही याला असे स्टीलचे थोडेसे दात ह्याला नख्या लावल्या आहेत. ॲक्च्युली ह्या ओरिजिनल नख्या आहेत ह्याच्या लावलेल्या आहेत त्या ओरिजिनल कशाच्या नख्या आहेत नाही सांगतात पण पोपटसारखं केलं आहे त्यांनी पोपटाच्या चोचीसारखं बनवलं आहे. त्याचबरोबर इतर रेड आहे ही कशाची बनवली असं वेगवेगळ्या प्रकार थीममध्ये त्यांनी बनवलं. छान आहे खूप एकदम. हे बहुतेक टायरपासून बनवलेले आहे. हां टायरपासून ही जी मिरची दिसते ही टायरपासून बनवलेली आहे रबर. इकडे एक मस्त लावली नाल दाखवली मोठी. बघू थोडं बघू शकता म्हणजे नावं किंवा कसे चेंज केले गेले त्यावेळेस. म्हणजे तुम्हाला नाव दिसेल इकडे प्रभू दिसेल त्याचं पिंटो नाव हे केलं गेलं किंवा लक्ष्मण आहे लुकास तसंच दामोदर आहे डामी अशा पद्धतीने नावं त्यावेळी लोकांना कन्वर्ट केले गेले असं म्हणू शकतो आपण एक प्रकारे. किंवा त्यांनी तो धर्म स्वीकारला आणि त्याच्यामध्ये त्यानंतर त्यांची नावं चेंज झाली. तुम्ही हे बघू शकता इकडे ह्या आर्ट्समधून दाखवण्याचं काम केलेलं आहे. इकडे अजून एक गॅलरी आहे समोर आपण ती गॅलरी बघूया. इथे खूप चांगला असा छान असा स्टॅच्यू दिसतो तुम्हाला बघा. इकडे छोट्या छोट्या ह्याच्यामध्ये केलेलं आहे आर्ट्समध्ये. सुशांत सुशांत ए सुशांत
उसकी वो पेंटिंग अच्छी है. Yes baby, tell me what happened. Yeah, I saw it. Why are you seeing it? I am not seeing it. But you told that why it is made of seashells.
टी बॅग्स ज्या आहेत त्या टी बॅग्सपासून बनवलेलं डिझाईन इकडे. कोरलपासून बनवलेलं टोटल कोरलपासून. ट्यूना फिशचा हे केलेला आहे आर्ट केलेला आहे. हे पण कोरलपासून बनवलं आहे. अपुरा इकडे पूर्ण गोवा डायरीजमध्ये सगळे डिटेल्स दिलेले. इकडे परशुरामापासून जे गोव्याचे त्याचे डिटेल्स दाखवले ते नंतर 63 years अगो 2nd century असं रीड नाही करायचं बहुतेक, ते रीडिंग असं जाईल. असं आहे. तो बरोबर दाखवतो तुम्ही पहिल्यांदा, मला कन्फ्यूज झालं. सेकंड सेंचुरी, सेकंड BC नाही गे आधीमध्ये लावलं. एकदम शोमध्ये आपण बघू शकता 1683 मध्ये. इकडे कोणी फणस दाखवलेत मस्त असे. इकडे किंग आय थिंक आहे सिनियर. ओल्ड गोवन फॅमिलीचे फोटो फ्राय. इंटरेस्टन आहे त्याचं इकडे काही दगडामध्ये मूर्ती ज्या कोरल्या गेल्यात त्याचं आकार. जसं की मित्रांनो तुम्हाला माहिती आहे की आपण गोव्यामध्ये आलो आहोत आणि गोव्यामध्ये आल्यानंतर सगळ्यात पहिल्यांदा आपण जे काही व्हिजिट केलं असेल ते आहे गोवा म्युझियम. आणि इकडच्या सगळ्या गोष्टी जर तुम्ही पाहिल्या असतील तर खूप सुरेख आणि खूप छान अशा बनवल्या आहेत. आता हे समोर तुम्हाला जे दिसतंय हे सगळे प्लॅस्टिक, वेस्ट ऑफ प्लॅस्टिक किंवा बॉटल्स आहेत प्लॅस्टिकच्या, त्याच्यापासून त्यांनी हे डिझाईन खूप सुंदर असं बनवलं आहे. सगळ्या इकडच्या वस्तू ह्या टाकाऊपासून टिकाऊ अशा बनवल्या गेलेल्या आहेत. तर तुम्ही इकडे एकदा तरी तुम्ही ज्यावेळी गोव्याला येताल तर गोव्याचा हा पार्ट पण तुम्ही अनुभवायला पाहिजे. त्याचबरोबर आपण आजचा हा व्हिडिओ इथे संपवत आहोत. त्याचबरोबर तुम्हाला गोव्याचे अजून काही व्हिडिओज तुम्हाला पुढच्या व्हिडिओमध्ये येतील. तर अजूनपर्यंत तुम्ही सबस्क्राईब केलं नसेल तर चॅनलला सबस्क्राईब करा आणि हा व्हिडिओ जास्तीत जास्त लोकांपर्यंत पोहोचवा. थँक्यू.